the personal family lawyer world, we call estate planning life and legacy planning. Because for us, estate planning is not about death. Estate planning is not done after you're dead. Estate planning is about life. And as you mentioned, I'm very, very, very passionate about this topic for our community, the Black community, because I think the stats say that 70 something percent of us don't have life and legacy plans, or as traditionally called, estate plans.
So Traci, there's probably someone out there saying, Traci, I get all this and it sounds important and I believe that I need it. However, I don't have a whole lot of money. I don't have a whole lot of wealth. I mean, all I have is maybe my house and a few $1,000s saved in the bank. What am I supposed to do with this?
You're going to pay now, or your loved ones are going to pay later. But if you die without a plan, you are going to...
Welcome, folks, to the very first edition of the HBCU Titans podcast, where we profile and highlight Titans, big or small, who are creating impact in the communities in which they're served, especially those who graduate from HBCUs. So when we talk about Titans, we usually think about the ones who lead on the field, in the boardroom, or in front of the cameras. But some Titans do their work quietly, protecting the very things we're all working to build, our legacy. Today's guest is one of those Titans. She's Traci O'Neal Ellis. She's an attorney and estate planning strategist who spent over 30 years helping families and entrepreneurs protect what matters most. She's a proud graduate of Florida A&M University and the Ohio State University College of Law. Traci has made it her mission to close the gap between building wealth and keeping it, particularly within Black families and the HBCU community. Through her firm, Traci O'Neal Ellis, LLC, she's redefining what it means to prepare for the future, showing us that legacy isn't just about money, it's about intention. So, welcome my special guest, Traci O'Neal Ellis. Traci, welcome to HBCU Titans podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How's that for an introduction?
That was great. That was great. I was like, what's he talking about? I feel so special. I feel special.
Round of applause anyway.
Yes.
So Traci, for those who may not be aware of what you do, and like I said, I've known Traci for a very long time, and she is very special, and I consider her a sister from another mister. And she, without question, is a treasure. So, Traci, for those of us who may not necessarily be aware of what you do, talk about Traci O'Neal Ellis, LLC, and especially as it relates to the world of estate planning, if you will. So, introduce us to who you are and what you do.
Okay, thank you. So most people, what I do is commonly known as estate planning. I'm a certified personal family lawyer, and what that means is we call it, in the personal family lawyer world, we call estate planning life and legacy planning. Because for us, estate planning is not about death. Estate planning is not done after you're dead. Estate planning is about life. And what you're doing now in your life while you're living to earn a living, build resources, build wealth, and start thinking about how you create, all while you're doing that, you're creating your legacy, and to think about how you pass that legacy on. And as you mentioned, I'm very, very, very passionate about this topic for our community, the Black community, because I think the stats say that 70 something percent of us don't have life and legacy plans, or as traditionally called, estate plans. And that is tragic on a number of levels, which we can get into later. But my practice area is limited to that singular area. That's all I do. I don't do probate litigation. I do life and legacy planning. That includes for business owners. So with business owners, there are additional services like, hey, if you're operating a business and you haven't structured it um, through an LLC or an S corp or C corp or something, I'll help you get structured. I'll make sure that your business is has what we call, uses an acronym, lifted, which makes sure that your legal um, documents and whatnot are in place, double checking that you have insurance adequate to protect your business and yourself, that your financial situation is straight, and your tax situation. So lift, legal, insurance, financial, tax for business owners, and that you're, so that that's all in order, so that you're able to pass that business on to family members or future generations if you choose to, or you're in a good situation if your lift is together,
Hmm.
you're a lifted business, in order for your family to sell the business if that's what you choose after you pass away. But it's all connected to life and legacy planning, and making sure that we often don't think we have wealth, but we do. We have
Right.
wealth, and it might not be counted in the millions and billions, but whatever we have is our wealth, it's our legacy. And I want to make sure that we are passing it on, and to the extent possible, we are avoiding probate court. Um, if that's important to my
Yeah.
clients, and I always explain why that's important, but that's what I do.
Tracy, let me ask you, because you mentioned a pretty interesting stat that 70 or over 70% of Black or African Americans, I guess, within the country don't necessarily have any type of estate planning instruments in place. And then this may sound kind of crazy, a crazy question to ask, but let me just ask, because we hear people all the time talk about 401k, the importance of retirement, the importance of life insurance, and so forth. But if you would, or if you could, kind of explain, primarily as it relates to what is different between estate planning and, say, someone who thinks they're set through life insurance, or is there a difference?
There's a big difference. So life insurance is part of your estate, and it's a necessary component of a good estate plan. But what life insurance, so let's just say that I die without a life and legacy plan, but I do have life insurance. Then whoever my beneficiaries are, which are my two kids, my two adult children,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to get that money. That is separate, because they're listed as beneficiaries. That is separate than how everything else passes. How do they get the money from my bank accounts? How do they get the my investment account, my retirement account or investment accounts? How do they access that? How do they get anything that I own, right? And um, life insurance is part of an estate plan, but the estate plan is the organization of all of your assets, and it is telling the story to your loved ones of how you want this passed on, who you want to get what to do with these things and assets in the event of your death. What if I become incapacitated? I'm in Atlanta, 285 is treacherous. What if I'm in a car accident? What if I'm in a car accident and um, I'm incapacitated? Who's going to make medical decisions for me? I can't speak for myself. I can't make medical decisions for myself. Who's going to talk to my doctors? Who's going to keep paying my bills? Who's going to access money, talk with my insurance company, make sure they're covering my bills, my medical bills? Who's going to get in my checking account and pay my bills so that things keep getting paid? Those A financial power of attorney is vital, is one of the vital documents, as is a healthcare directive and a healthcare power of attorney. So there are 5 essential documents that every adult needs, and that is the trust, okay, or the will, but the trust, A power, and the trust comes with a special type of will. The power of attorney, financial, the power of attorney for healthcare, and an advance directive that says this is how I want, this is what I, how I want my healthcare to go. Okay. Those are five essential documents. So the life insurance is a component of that. That says that, okay, I bought insurance and when I die, my beneficiaries are going to get some money. But what about everything else? How do we, that can pass on to them, but how do I pass on the rest of my assets? And I do that through an organized life and legacy plan or the estate planning process. Now, a lot of people die. Like I said, 70% of Black folks don't have this. And, Black folks die every day. So then what happens? Well, if you don't have a plan that you've chosen and put together, whatever state you live in has one for you.
Mm.
And so you are leaving yourself, and I don't even have to get into, do you really want the state's plan? You haven't even
Mm.
seen it yet, but
Yeah.
I can tell you that you don't want the state's plan. And even to put that plan in place requires probate court. And probate court, you know, is different in every county across the country, but you can count on about 3 to 8% of your, probably 10% if you count California, but 3 to 8% of the total value of your estate in probate fees. And the process is going to take 9 to 18 months if it goes smoothly. If
Hmm.
there's litigation and contesting the will and things like that, then it could go longer and get more expensive. My role, I see myself as I want to keep families out of chaos and out of conflict upon the passing of my clients. And the best way to do that is to have a clear life and legacy plan that avoids probate, which is a public process, and keeps everything private
Okay.
between me and my family. Okay. The reason we know what Gene Hackman had and what his will said is because the will process, somebody ought to be filing malpractice against his attorney. I mean, I don't know why that man didn't have a trust, but he only had a will, so he has to go through probate, and probate is a public process. That's why we can go and look and see what assets he had, who his creditors were, who gets what they're fighting over, because it's all a public process. It's not because he's wealthy. You can go find Big Mama's will if she died without a will or only had a will. Um, you can go to probate court and see the record and of everything she had, who her creditors were, who got what, all of that. And so the trust process is a private process. But at any rate, that's getting into the nitty gritty. That's a difference between your life insurance is just one asset you have, but you have to have an orderly plan for how to pass along all of your assets.
Hey folks, Kenn Rashad. We'll get back to the show in just a second, but I've got to take a quick pause just to put something on your radar. My business coach, Dr. Myron Golden, is hosting his next Make More Offers Challenge. And if you're serious about growing your business, scaling your income, and creating lasting impact, this is the place to be. It's 5 days of high-level teachings that'll show you how to structure, price, and position offers that don't just sell, but they help your business grow with purpose. I've been through this challenge myself, and it completely shifted the way I think about business, from how I build to how I serve. So do yourself a favor, go to offers.kennrashad.com and secure your spot for the next Make More Offers Challenge. Now let's get back to the show. So Traci, there's probably someone out there saying, Traci, I get all this and it sounds important and I believe that I need it. However, I don't have a whole lot of money. I don't have a whole lot of wealth. I mean, all I have is maybe my house and a few $1,000s saved in the bank. What am I supposed to do with this? I mean, talk about that, because I think I understand it and you've explained it, but there probably is someone out there who thinks that this isn't something that is for them because of the perception of not necessarily being rich or not necessarily being wealthy or not necessarily being in a current income bracket that warrants investing in such an instrument. What do you say to those individuals?
Well, along the lines of part of what I just said, you're going to pay now, or your loved ones are going to pay later. But if you die without a plan, you are going to probate court. Or if you die with only a will versus a trust, your family, your loved ones, your beneficiaries are going to probate court. And again, that's going to cost 3 to 8% roughly across the country.
Repeat that again. That's going to cost what?
3 to 8% of the
Okay.
value of your estate. So you've got a house that once you subtract your mortgage balance out of it, maybe your house is, you got 100,000 in equity. Maybe you have 200,000 in equity. Maybe your house is paid off if you've been in it for a long time. So you've got this very valuable asset, right? And you have a checking account and probably a savings account. All right, let me not talk about life insurance and retirement accounts because you've set beneficiaries for those. It's still all going, those can pass outside of probate, but everything, your house, your bank accounts, any separate investment accounts, if you have any crypto, die without having passed that crypto key along to somebody and it's lost. It's just forever lost, right? So if you die without a trust, even if you have a will, you're going to probate court. Your family is going to probate court. The probate process, again, costs between 3 and 8%. So let's just take the 3%, all right, and say that you have $100,000 in assets. That's your gross wealth is $100,000. Well, there's $3,000 right there, period, that you can count on. My will plan, which is still going to send you to probate court for all of the documents that you need, is $2,000, right? But you're still going to have to go to probate court. My trust plan starts at $4,000. Well, you're going to spend $3,000 minimally in probate court anyway. If there's any conflict between your heirs, like you didn't have any plan and now they're arguing over who gets Big Mama's house and who gets that picture that she has hanging on the wall, who gets the blanket thrown over the living room couch that has Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Black Jesus on it. I don't know. But,
Right.
who gets that? Who gets the money out of the bank? How do you get the money out of the bank? All of those types of things can lead to conflict, and that just increases the cost of probate court.
Yeah.
Also, we have a lot of blended families because you might have half siblings somewhere that maybe you're close to, maybe you're not, but dad's estate, the half siblings may be entitled to something. And if they aren't part of, because he didn't have a will or anything, or your mom didn't have a will or something, or has a will but didn't include them, that's going to be a fight in probate court. Now that 3% is out the door. And we're upwards now into infinity. I mean, It depends on how long and how much fighting is going on. But we want to avoid all of that because you don't want your loved ones to be in conflict while they're also grieving. And so what I often tell people is an estate plan, a life and legacy plan, is the last love letter that you can write to your family. And so my work, my highest professional honor, is to help you write that love letter so that we keep your loved ones out of court and out of conflict and chaos.
Yeah. So you've obviously practiced law for a very long time. And typically, now that you're in estate planning, there typically is that aha moment, something that happens that finally kind of, I guess, puts you in a position to where you say, you know what, this is what I want to focus on. Was that a moment for you? Is there any particular moment in your past or something that made you make the conscientious decision to start focusing on estate planning?
Yeah, definitely. So there are two seminal things that happened. One of them, my brother was like, you shouldn't tell that story because that's just too embarrassing for you. Not for me, but for you. But I tell it because it signals to potential clients that I understand. So I had an estate plan. I'm divorced now. When I was married, I had an estate plan. We got it when our kids were little, and I mean little like my kids are grown, out of
Hmm.
college. My oldest son has kids, so
Right.
this was a long time ago. We had an estate plan put together. We get divorced. And by the way, by the time we got divorced, the estate plan was out of date because we were like three houses later by then, right? But at any rate, we get divorced and the years go on. And then I had a bit of a health scare. And it occurred to me during this health scare, oh my gosh, if I die, everything goes to my ex husband.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, wait, I'm an attorney. How did I not fix this? Because life be lifing, and the
Right.
divorce and health scare, life be lifing, and so I get it. It isn't top of mind. I'm an attorney. I had done estate planning before. It wasn't my sole practice, but I had done it before and then stopped doing it for a long time. And then it wasn't top of mind for me anymore. And I went all of those years, right? So I quickly just gave my kids the login to my bank accounts and said, here are the life insurance policies if anything happens to me. And they were like, oh, Mom, you're so dramatic. But it got real for me then. And so I have done my estate plan and updated it, but I understand how this could not be a priority, how
Mm.
it's not part of your daily thinking. My job is to tell you how important it is to talk to the masses, to do podcast interviews, to get out in the community and explain, don't be me, right? And I'm a lawyer and didn't think about it.
Mm.
The second story is there's some land in Kentucky that some of um, my ancestors,
Hmm.
okay, own. Right now, there are squatters growing tobacco and corn and whatever they're growing, but they've been squatting for probably 100 years.
Wow.
So, well, that's a little long. Probably 50 years. I'm going to say 50 years.
Wow. Still a
And the
long time.
reason it's a long time, right?
Yeah.
And now we're aware and can show title through a certain point, but things weren't when people died, especially in our community. Big Mama dies, nobody changes the deed. The house is paid off. Nobody changes the title to the house. Whoever's living there, they just keep paying the taxes and utilities, and somebody keeps living in it or whatever, whatever. But that then, when you don't have good title to property, that then becomes what's known as heirs property, meaning that there's a bunch of heirs that own it, and but nobody has title to it. You can't refinance it, you can't sell it, you
Mm.
can't extract any value out of that property. And a lot of property is lost or walked away from because it's like, well, I'm not going to keep paying the taxes on this house and the utilities if I can't ever own it. There is a way, but it's expensive to get that title back in place. So now, all these years later, these squatters, we've essentially lost that land,
Wow.
okay, because there are squatters sitting on it. And there's no way for us to go back and fix all the title issues from 50 years, right?
Wow.
So that's the second story for me that's like, this family, my family, now we won't lose another square foot
Yeah.
of land. We're not going to lose any property because things haven't been titled appropriately, because we don't all have estate plans, life and legacy plans in place. So I'm starting with my own family. Like my brother is an attorney and he doesn't have one, so I'm in the middle of working on his. My sister and her husband have four kids and they don't have one, so I'm working on theirs. And so I'm trying to clean up my own, I did mine. I'm trying to clean up my own family, but I'm also on a mission to help other families, all families, but particularly our families, Black families, who are so woefully underrepresented in this area and don't understand the importance of it or think they can't afford it. But it's going to come out of your state one way or the other. You're going to probate court and it's going to come out there, or we can keep you out of probate court, or at least put you in position to have an orderly disposition of your assets and property upon your passing. Or if we're not disposing of it because you're just incapacitated, we can make sure somebody, if you become incapacitated, Ken, you're married. You think because you're incapacitated that your wife can just go handle everything? She can't be the guardian of you unless she goes to court.
Hmm.
If she's not on your business bank accounts, she can't be the guardian of you. Then she's going to have to go to court and be appointed your guardian. So now imagine you have kids and this son wants to be the guardian and that daughter wants to be the guardian, and now they're fighting over who gets to be the guardian. That's all going to be in court, in probate court. So I'm trying to eliminate potential conflict, chaos, and money and expenses later on, so that we're prepared for whatever um, life brings.
Hmm. We're going to get back into the conversation and the importance of estate planning, Traci, a little later. But this podcast is called HBCU Titans, and I want to make sure we put some things in proper context because, as I indicated in the intro, you're a Florida A&M grad.
Yes.
I won't hold it against you, okay? Uh, but I have to ask, you are originally from Illinois, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How does one go from Illinois to Tallahassee, Florida, to Florida A&M? Kind of provide us with some perspective on making that move, and then, of course, the impact that FAMU had for the time that you were there.
So my uncle had been a math professor there, and he told me about FAMU. But when I graduated high school, or in my senior year, I had been accepted into Illinois' flagship university, University of Illinois. And
Champaign?
I was like, yeah, yep, I'm going to U of I. I'm going to U of I because what do I know about Florida A&M? And that's a little school. I'm going to this big, institution. Well, so I went, and it was an immediate disaster. I, it was a disaster. I was
You just gonna leave it at
mostly
that,
of my
huh?
own making. Mostly of my own making.
Right.
I can be truthful about it now. Um, I wasn't prepared for, as a freshman, sitting in an auditorium with 300 other students and some grad professor, a grad assistant down on the stage doing whatever they were doing, mumbling from their notes or whatever. And I'm sitting in the back. And so I'd either leave early or not show up at all. Anyway, when I say it was a disaster, I ended up on probation. And then that next semester, when I knew I had to come off of probation or I was going to get kicked out, um, halfway through, I knew, oh, I'm not going to make it out. I'm not going to make it out, because part of what was working against me in my immaturity is that I had set up my schedule so I only had classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Mm.
So I went from like 8 to 3 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So for me, school was out at 3 o'clock on Thursdays, and it didn't start again until
Until
8 o'clock
Tuesday.
on Tuesday. Right. And nothing academic was happening between those times, right? And then mostly Tuesdays, because I had maybe been out late Monday, I wasn't making it to my 8 o'clock anyway. So I knew, you know what, I'm about to flunk out of here. And my parents are going to kill me anyway, but maybe I'll be less dead if I drop out rather than flunk out. So I dropped out of college. I
Wow.
dropped out to keep from flunking out of U of I, the school that I wanted to go to.
Yeah.
So then my uncle called and was like, he was no longer teaching math there at the time, but he was like, "Do you want to try FAMU now? And I think you're going to find it vastly different." And I was like, yes, maybe I see where I need a smaller school. So I transfer to FAMU.
Let me ask. You say it's a smaller school and you knew it was in Florida. Did you know it was an HBCU, or did you know it was predominantly black campus? Were you aware of
Yes, I
that?
did.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I did. And so I went to FAMU, and the experience was so wonderful. First of all, like I said, As a freshman, I had grad assistants at University of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
At FAMU, I had professors, the
Mm.
PhDs, right? And I remember the first couple of weeks I was at FAM, I cut my econ class. And because it was on Fridays at 12. Do you know what the yard at FAMU looks like on Fridays at 12? The Kappas are out there stepping. And so I just cut it one time, right? And afterwards, about 1:30, I'm still hanging out on the yard. And I can hear off in the distance, Miss O'Neal, Miss O'Neal. And I'm turning around like, who is calling me? And everybody around is going, oh my gosh, you in trouble. That's Professor so-and-so. And it was my econ professor.
Uh-oh.
And he walked right up to me. He looked like George Jefferson. So he was shorter than me, but he came up and he was pointing his finger in my face. He was like, I don't know what you're used to in Chicago, but let me tell you this, you don't cut my class.
What?
You do not cut my class. You better ask somebody.
Oh.
And then, so I was like, how does this man even know I cut his class? Because there weren't 300 of us in there. There were about 20 of us in his class. And then my marketing professor, actually, he did teach marketing, but he also taught quantitative analysis. So my quantitative analysis professor, we all failed the test. We all bombed it. And he was like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. Because clearly, y'all don't know what's going on. Come to my house on Sunday after church or whatever for dinner. He had us all there. His wife cooked up. She threw down. We had pork chops and fried chicken and mashed potatoes with gravy and cornbread and green beans and all the things, right? And some cake. Anyway, we all sat on the floor and couches and chairs in his family room, and he retaught the lesson to us.
Wow.
And then before we ate, he knew better than to try to talk to us after
Right.
that. Before we ate. And retaught the lesson to us. And then we all passed, right? The next time. Varying grades, but we all passed. And FAMU just kept showing me and kept showing me it's the size of the school, but it's also the heart of these professors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we aren't just anybody. They understood who we were as Black students and what we needed. And they were bringing it to us.
Mm.
It's like they wrapped their collective arms around us and weren't going to let us fail.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't like all of my professors. Some of them didn't jive with me, but one of them made me cry. And that was an elective. I was like, listen, I'm trying to graduate and you up here trying to fail me or not give me a good grade over.
And this is an elective.
It was an elective. I was a business major. This was a Black history class. And I don't remember why he didn't like my paper or something. I don't remember, but all I know is, and then he was like getting on me about something. I don't remember what, but I know he hurt my feelings and I started crying. But as I've matured, I understand that, he was saying, no, you don't come in here and just throw down slop and think it's okay with me. Right. And I expect your best. And this isn't your best. And I'm trying to get through slop so I can just graduate. That's all I cared about. But he cared more than I did. And so I made it through that summer. He didn't fail me or whatever. I made it through. But time after time after time at FAMU, they just wrap their arms around us. And I hear those stories, from people who go to HBCUs. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have a unique perspective because I went to PWI before I went to an HBCU. So I have a distinct comparison of the difference. Because a lot of times you go to an HBCU and you don't fully, it's good, they care about you. That's why you chose an HBCU, but you don't fully understand because you didn't have to deal with, maybe in high school or something, but you do not have to deal with grad assistants and professors who don't care nothing about you. Right. You are a number. And that's it. But at FAM, like if you fail, you work at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So eventually you graduate from FAM, and apparently during that time or something happened to where you made the decision to study law and you attend Ohio State. Talk about that. How did that come about?
So I had always wanted to be a lawyer. First, I started out in middle school and early high school. It was like, I want to be a social worker. And my mom said, why? And I was like, because I'm nosy and you get to hear everybody's problems. Okay. But I matured a little bit in high school and I decided, I know, right? Listen, that
I'm
is what I
sorry.
said. Social workers get to hear everybody's problems and I want to know everybody's problems. So
Okay.
now I know people's problems as a lawyer. I know people's problems, and it ain't all that's cracked up to be
Yeah.
to know everybody's problems. But by the time I was a sophomore, junior in high school, for sure, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, and so I kind of abandoned that dream once I dropped out of U of I. But when I went back, when I transferred to FAMU, kind of resurrected. Well, FAMU had closed its law school, and so it wasn't open. That wasn't a choice, and I was ready to come back to Illinois, but ended up I got a better deal at Ohio
Hmm.
State, and so that's how I ended up at Ohio State for law school. And um, it well, let me in between that. Let me say this: I graduated from FAMU. I got a job first because I wasn't ready to.
Yeah.
I needed a break from school, so I
Yeah.
got a job, worked in a bank, and a year of working got me ready to go back to school. I was like, "Who this working is not all it's cracked up to be either."
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
um, I'm ready to. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to work every day. So I'm ready to go to
Right.
law school, and that was the only acceptable way to get out of going to work every day was to go back to school. So I was ready to go to law school. I went to Ohio State, and um,
The rest is
here I
history.
am. Hmm.
The rest is history. Okay. So let me ask
Yeah.
you this, Traci. So now let's get back to the estate planning part because, and I don't want to necessarily belabor this, but in a greater scheme of things, and I think you'll agree with me that there are a lot of people, white or black, who tend to be a little skeptical of attorneys or lawyers. And depending on what it is that they practice and so forth, there's this maybe belief that they're just doing it, just trying to get my money. Okay. And I know you personally. I know you care. I know you give a damn. And when you put in consideration what you're doing now, the importance of it, and to be quite honest with you, many of us who just simply are illiterate in the sense that we know it exists, but we don't necessarily see it as something that is for us. Do you find this? I mean, is this something that you have to sell? I mean, I'm saying you've got some who realize the importance of it, but do you find yourself really having to kind of like really sell this to like, look, you really need this? And I mean, and have you come across instances where once you've gotten them on board, there's kind of like a sigh of relief, if you will? I mean, have you had any of those experiences?
Yeah, I have them every day. And so, you know me, because you do know me, you know I can't sell heat to Eskimos, right? I cannot sell. I cannot sell. Um, and so I don't have a salesy approach, a pushy approach. Um, I try to the way I approach it is to educate
Mm-hmm.
and to show you the need. And part of sharing my own stories, I mean, my brother's right, it is a bit embarrassing to be an attorney whose estate plan was so grossly out of date. Not
Mm-hmm.
only had we moved on our third house since the estate plan had been, and making sure your house is in your trust is vital. Um, so we were three houses later. None of those houses, but the first one, were part of the trust. The bank accounts had changed. All this thing, life things had changed, and so it is embarrassing to sit here and say that I didn't key in on that.
Yeah.
But one, I'm divorced, right? So I spent some years where, you know, clearly something went wrong in my marriage. And so, life be lifing. And so I understand that. So I tell that story because I want people to know that I understand. why this hasn't been prioritized. Life be lifing, and money be flowing out more faster than it flows in. All of those things I understand. And so I want to connect with people. I want people, so I tell stories. I have other family stories. I don't have to go dig into, I've got client stories, but I've got my own family stories like, hey, we lost that land. I also have stories. Um, my grandmother died with, my father's mother died with a will, father too, just a will. And my dad, when he was going through my grandmother's stuff, had no idea where bank accounts works. My grandfather was already deceased. Where are bank accounts? Didn't find life insurance policies in the house. None of that. Some years later, after my dad passed away, my mom gets notice from some insurance company that Ron O'Neal, my dad, might be not the Ron O'Neal, but well,
Mm.
he said my dad said he was the Ron O'Neal, but not the actor. Let me put it that way. But that he might be the beneficiary of a life insurance policy. And so I started checking and found out that money and life insurance policies had escheated to the state because nobody had, they didn't know who to contact. So I had to do a bunch of work to get these life insurance policies paid. By then, my grandmother and grandfather are deceased. My dad is deceased. His brother and sister are deceased, right? So that whole line of family is deceased. And I'm having to prove that we should, those funds should come here. And so I ended up getting two life insurance policies and a bank account, not personally. I mean, it had to, I dispersed it to um, the right people, and it wasn't enough money to fight over, but it was
Hmm.
enough to make people happy, surprised that, oh man, glad I got this gift. But that, you don't want your stuff to cheat to the state. There's $58 billion of assets sitting in this country, total across every state. It totals up to about $58 billion sitting in the unclaimed fund departments of
58,
every
how much?
state.
58 million?
Billion,
Billion.
billion,
Oh,
billion
wow.
dollars. That's a lot of assets. And if you go to your state's unclaimed fund department and put in, all of the states have, you can search your name
Yeah.
and you can see whether you've got something. It could be a utility refund from when you moved 15 years ago, 10 years ago. It could be anything. It could be some refund check from Verizon, that, or some previous vendor you did business with. It could be a number of things. And um, you can go through the paperwork, and they don't make it easy
Yeah.
for you to
Yeah.
get it. But if you persist, you can get the money. And so, but I don't want my clients, my goal is that you will not have a dollar lost to unclaimed funds,
Right.
because I'm going to get, my process gets you more financially organized than probably you've ever been in your life. We
Mm.
know everything you have and where it is, and a way of capturing that so that you can share it, so that your loved ones know, and they aren't running through the house opening drawers and file cabinets and looking under couches and whatnot. I just read an article that Aretha Franklin, when she died, she left four sons behind. They
Yeah.
thought that they
Yeah.
were the heirs, right? The four sons, and there was no will. Well, sometime after she died, somebody found a will under the
Under the
couch
cushions.
cushion,
Yeah.
and then found a second one in a closet somewhere,
Yeah.
and one wasn't signed, and one was signed but didn't have witnesses, and so it ended up in probate court in a trial, and ultimately the sons
Yeah.
were awarded it. Prince is the same way,
Yeah, I
died
was
without
just
an
about to say
estate
that. I was going to
plan.
say we talked about. Yeah, I was just about to ask because we talk about the so-called rich and wealthy, having access to these estate plans and these instruments, and yet there are some examples of those who are actually so-called rich and wealthy. And who died with a lot of assets, such as Gene Hackman, such as the situation with Aretha Franklin. I was just about to ask you about Prince,
Yeah.
and I think even for those who may not necessarily be aware of the process when they heard, wait a minute, what? I don't even think he even had a will. Or so yeah, talk about that, because I even want to say that when that news broke, and just I think you even commented on social media, if I'm not mistaken. I remember
Yeah.
that pretty vividly. But talk about that situation with Prince, and how that all ties into kind of what the so-called normal person may have to deal or encounter.
Yeah, so Prince dies. There's no will, there's no nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so I think he has four siblings. His estate was valued at $150 million. And I think he had four siblings. And so they assumed that they were the heirs, but he had three or four half siblings. And so they say, we're entitled to a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, they were fighting, and it was 6 years. It went to trial. It was 6 years after that man's death that the court finally ruled that his siblings and half siblings were entitled to split up his estate. Now, because he had no kids, he had no parents
Yeah.
or siblings. So, I'm sorry, no parents or kids.
Get kids, right?
Millions of dollars were spent on that litigation out of his estate.
Wow.
Millions on that litigation. So now it wouldn't take millions to settle my estate. Most of us, it wouldn't take millions of dollars, but the thousands of dollars, if my kids started fighting,
Yeah.
the thousands of dollars that it would take to settle my estate is hard for me to swallow,
Yeah.
because that's thousands of dollars that could have been going to them. And so um, it doesn't really make sense when you think about it, that you would give up 3 to 8% of your estate value when you die simply because you didn't plan ahead. And I know one of the objections is people don't like to talk about death.
Yeah. That fear factor,
And
if you
don't,
will. Yeah.
yeah, we don't want to talk about death and dying. And so I understand, but that's why this is life and
Hmm.
legacy planning.
Yeah.
This is not planning when you're dead. This is you are living. And what are your values and how do you want your legacy to pass on? Which brings me to another point. We leave our hard, tangible assets. That's what's in my estate plan.
Right.
Actually, my estate plan is sitting right here on my desk. Here it is. All these documents right here. Oops, I'm not in the camera.
Yeah.
All right. This is the estate planning portfolio of Traci D. Ellis. All right. All these documents. This is all saying, what I want, where I want my assets, uh, um, I've created a trust, and um, all of that. It takes care of all of that legally. But I also have, those are the hard assets, the tangible assets. I have intangible assets that you can't touch or put your fingers on, but they're just as important to me.
Hmm.
Those are my faith,
Hmm.
my values, the stories that I have, some touching, some funny, the lessons that I want to pass on to my kids. And so, what I offer my clients as part of their plans, no additional cost, is I will interview you. And I've got a list of about 50 questions or so. You pick the 5, 10 questions you want, 20 questions you want. I'll interview you. We'll video this, and I'll send you the link to it, as well as put it on a jump drive for you,
Yeah.
so that your family can find this with your life and legacy planning documents. And you can show it to them ahead of time, but certainly when you pass away, like I have a 4-year-old grandson. If I were to pass away today, he might have some vague memories of me, but when he's 16, 18, 21, he's not going to really know Gracie for Grandma Tracy. He's not going to really know Gracie, but by this, he can see me, he can hear my stories, he can hear my love for him. I can talk about him and his brothers. I can say what my values are, what I hope for them and my kids. And this is something that they can keep where they're always have a part of me. So I take care of the tangible assets through the documents and the intangible assets and how I want to pass on my legacy to my kids and grandkids. I do that through my stories and my talking about my values and what my
Right.
hopes and dreams are for them.
Let me ask you, Traci, I just want to go back and just for the purpose of clarification for those who may be watching, and based upon what you said, you mentioned something about the Prince case with respect to his situation in the court case. You said that millions came out of the estate, I guess, in that process. Well, can you be a little bit more specific? Did like millions go to the state to conduct that trial? Is that what you mean? Or how exactly did his estate lose money as a result of that?
It would have been attorney's fees,
Okay.
it would have been court costs, it would have been appraisals of things to get down to valuing his total estate. They have to value. Somebody had accountants had to come in and do final tax returns. They would have to value record, his music
His
portfolio,
masters, yeah,
his
portfolio,
masters,
yeah,
all of that, the royalties from that. It's all of that valuation, attorney's fees, fighting back and forth. If I'm, broke or just a regular person and I'm trying to claim I'm due part of his estate, I can't fight his lawyers. I don't have the money to fight them. So
yeah,
my lawyer is going to represent me and make a claim to Prince's estate for my attorney's fees because if I'm proven to be a rightful heir, right? And so everybody's attorney's fees got paid and the court costs, the valuation cost, but they got paid after the millions came off his. Now, if his estate was valued at 150 million, I don't know how many millions
right.
in
It
all of
was a
that,
lot,
but I
though,
mean,
right?
it was a lot. Let's say it was $5 million or
Yeah,
$10 million. He still had 135,
yeah,
100, you know, 30,000, 130 million, whatever. He still had a large estate, right? And
yeah.
so that got split up among the siblings and the half siblings. Um, but for those of us who have estates that are significantly less than that, how much more important is it that we make sure? I'm an attorney, but I don't want my estate getting eaten up in attorney's fees.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want them to have accounting fees and valuation fees, and I don't want that.
Hmm.
I want my estate to pass to my children and grandchildren in the way that I want it to pass. And the only way to ensure that and ensure that, my kids aren't fighting over it or whatever, um, is is to have the plan
Hmm.
and to do the plan, do a life and legacy plan while I'm living, especially while I'm healthy, before incapacity overtakes me, and I'm doing things out of desperation then.
Right,
Um, and certainly before I die, because then it's too late.
right.
And
So,
now I have the peace.
right. So we know the pains associated we know the pains associated with not taking action. Talk about the process. So, like, for instance, someone says, okay, Traci, I want to go to you and I want to take advantage of one of the options that you offer. Time wise, from start to finish, how long does that process take?
From start to finish, you're looking at probably, for me, about 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Hmm.
Okay.
And mine is a very intensive process for me and my assistant. First of all, if you really came in cold, I had um, a 20-minute phone call with you just to see what's got you thinking about estate planning, learn a little bit about you, explain how I practice. The next step from there, if you want to move forward with me, is a 2-hour life and legacy planning session. And I would send you out client homework. It's about 20 pages. It's intimidating, but it's a fillable PDF. It's where I collect demographic information about you, and then get down to, you got a checking account at Chase, you got a checking account at Bank of America. I want to know where your bank accounts are. You can give me the last four numbers, approximate balances. Who's your mortgage company? What's the approximate balance of your mortgage? What's the current value of your house? Do you have crypto? You need to put that key or whatever. I don't have crypto, but you need to put that
Right.
key
Yeah.
or
You need a
whatever.
key.
You
Right.
need to
Yeah.
give it to me,
Yeah.
because if you die, it's gone forever,
Mhm.
right? And if somebody doesn't know it, so I want that to be in your estate plan. Who is your life insurance with? I want each company. I want a phone number. I want the policy number. I'm getting all of your finances, all of your assets, in order. Okay. I take that. You fill out that homework and you tell me who you want to be your executor, if it's your will, your trustee, if you're getting a trust, who you want your powers of attorney to be, those types of things. And once I have that information, I develop it's called a SIMI, a confidential information and missing information. I turn that around, send it back to you and say, is this right, Ken? Do I have all this right? Here's your checking accounts, your bank accounts, your life insurance, your assets. Did I leave anything off? Did you leave anything off? Do I have things right? This is who you want to be your beneficiaries. This is who you want to be your executor or your trustee. Did I spell it right? All of those things, because then I'm going to draft. And so that takes um, 2 weeks, let's say. And then I'm going to spend 3 weeks, 4 weeks drafting. That takes about a week. And then I'm going to spend 3, 4 weeks drafting. And then we're going to have an initial meeting where I'm going to go over, um, once again, some of the more important like, do I have I've got the beneficiaries right? I spelled it right. Everything's right. Check, check, check. And I'm going to go through the document writ large with you. Now, 99% of this 130 something pages is legalese. You don't get to change that, right? Because I'm the lawyer. I'm the one who decides the legalese. I will give you, so I'm not going to go word for word with it.
Right.
I will give you an overview of each section, though. This is what this section is saying. This is what this section means. Here's who your beneficiaries are. Here's what your assets are, all of that. Any changes? If there are any changes, I'm going to go back, draft, and then we come to the final signing. Depending on what state you're in, because I'm licensed in a couple of states and I do practice in some other states where I co-counsel with counsel in that state. But some states require one witness, some states require two witnesses. We'll have those witnesses. We'll have a notary there if we're doing it long distance and doing the signing on Zoom, and you'll notarize and sign. And then those the signed documents and notarized documents will come back to me. You'll mail them back to me. I will put them in a binder for you and mail the binder back out to you. And if you did the recording with me, you'll get a jump drive anyway, because your estate plan is going to be on the jump drive. And if you did a legacy recording with me, that will be on the jump drive as well. So by the time you have the binder in hand, it might be as much as 2 months.
Okay.
So somewhere 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks. So for roughly $2,000 to $4,000 and 6 to 8 weeks of processing and so forth to complete the entire process. So you're saying it's either that versus months, if not years, in probate court, and probably 2 to 3 times more in potential fees that you probably either don't have or don't expect to pay or don't want to pay. It's almost it's almost as if you're saying you can pay me now or you can pay them later.
Right. It really is that. Pay me now or pay them later. Now, I've had some people say, well, I've been in probate court before when my sister or my dad died, and it wasn't all of that. I mean, I paid the probate attorney, a couple of $1,000s, and it was over in 4 or 5 months. That can be. I'm talking averages. It on average is 3 to 8% of the deceased person's estate, and it takes 6 to 18 months or longer if there's conflict, right? And people are challenging the will or trying to say I should be entitled to part of it and all of that. I get calls all the time or emails from people who are saying, I'm getting cut out of my half sisters have cut me out and I want to fight for my, I think I'm entitled to some of my dad's estate and yada yada. I don't do
Hmm.
that work. So my passion is in to keep you out of that. So I don't
Right.
do probate work. But it is so some people could have had, fine experiences in probate and whatnot. Okay. But it is public. And again, I don't have anything to hide, but I just don't think I need everybody to be able to look and see, oh, Tracy had these creditors and this is what her kids,
Mm.
grandkids got. I don't, it's a private process. And so
Right.
I want to keep it private
Right.
and probate is a public process. And what I tell people is probate ain't for your loved ones anyway. Probate is a lawsuit against your estate for the benefit of your creditors.
Hmm.
That's what probate really is, because the first order of business is to give notice. One of the first things the probate attorney does is give notice to all the creditors, and they've got a time period to make their claim. Okay, and so
Okay.
they get paid first, and during those months, if you got to be paying, you're trying to pay Big Mama's house mortgage and whatnot, while you're waiting for creditors to make their claims and somebody's got to be paying the mortgage, or you're asking the court, can we sell the house so that we can stop paying the mortgage, and the court's saying no, not yet. I mean, this is real life probate court.
Hmm. Okay.
And so and some people say, well, I put my oldest child, she's joined on my checking account, so it's gonna pass to her, I don't need to do this. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
but,
making my kids.
no, I know a lot of people do that, and I'm saying, but and I don't mean to laugh at it because I know it's
No,
done, but apparently there is something that about that process that still isn't necessarily kosher, right?
yeah. So here's the thing. I love my two sons to death, but they are not going to be joint bank holders with me, because then my money is subject to any creditors they have.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Their
Okay,
creditors, because joint bank means that that's not my money, that's our money.
right.
That's their money too. And so if they have creditors who come after them, they can garnish my bank account
Yeah,
too.
right, right. Uh,
Or be ordered to make payment out of my bank account. Some people leave their payment there. They put their kid as pay on death. So
what?
that's pay on death. Like, you can go to the bank and have your account set up a pay on death, so that on my death, this money goes to this person.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay, yeah.
Yes. The problem with pay on death is, particularly if you have kids and who siblings and half siblings and whatnot, and you know I know that my son is going to give half to his brother. I know he's going to be fair. I left it to him because he's going to be fair.
Yeah.
Money changes people. I don't care if it's six
Right.
thousand dollars. I've seen people fighting. I've seen siblings fighting over $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah.
Because, well, I took care of mama all the whole time, and they didn't never come by and see mom, and I'm the one who did this, and I'm the one who did that. And so transfer on death is not the right solution either, because you think but you don't know that your child that you named is going to actually split this up evenly, or did you even want it evenly? But so these documents take care of all of that. That's why I say I keep you out of court chaos and conflict.
So, Traci, we're running out of time, and I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know you got things to do. You've got legacies to continue to build. Um, any closing messages or any closing thoughts to the folks out there who may still be considering this and who still may think this is something that may not necessarily be for them?
Call me and let's talk about it. Find me and let's talk about it, and to see whether or not it's important. I'm not a salesperson, so I'm not pushy. I am clear and I am direct about how this works and the necessity for it. And my appeal, particularly, is to my community, to the Black community. We need this. We need this. It is an orderly way to pass along your legacy. And like I said at the top of the show, or somewhere in there, it's the last love letter that you can
Mm.
write to your family, to your loved ones. It is a love letter to say, I thought enough about you. I love you enough that I took the time and spent the money to lay out and organize a plan to keep my legacy going. And I'd be honored if I can to help you write that love letter.
And Traci, how can they find you either on social media or website? Provide us all of your details, and we'll make sure to include links in the description as well. But let everybody know how they can find you or contact you.
So my website is traciellis.com, and Traci is spelled with an I, TraciEllis.com. And on Facebook, I have a business page, Traci O'Neal Ellis, estate planning attorney on Facebook. And then I'm on LinkedIn as Traci O'Neal Ellis. So those are the ways you can, oh, and you can call me, of course, at 404 499 3792. 404 399 4792. I'm sorry, not 4792. It's 3792. 404 499 3792.
All of those numbers.
All those numbers.
Traci, thank you so much for being the first and obviously not last. We're going to bring you on again sometime in the future for being our
Thank
first
you.
HBCU Titan.
I'm
Uh,
honored.
yeah, and again, thank you for helping me kickstart this podcast. And we hope to not only hear more of you, but we're gonna make sure that we do what we can to bring you back on so you can continue to
Thank you so
make us
much.
all the
Thank
more
you, Ken.
wiser
I'm
for it.
honored.
All right.
I'm honored. And thanks for giving me an opportunity to shout out FAMU. Go Rattlers.
And on
I
that
had
note,
to.
we are gone.
Bye bye.
All right. Okay, lady. Thank you so much. Oh.
Thank you.